The city was alive with noise and color, but it was not a city of light or peace. It was a place where the dark corners of the galaxy came together, the biggest market for buying and selling beings from many worlds. Traders, buyers, and spectators filled the streets, shouting, bargaining, and watching with hungry eyes. This was the market of shadows. Kayla walked quietly between the crowded stalls, her steps careful but steady. She was different from many others here. Her skin shimmered faintly in the dim light, a soft blue with patterns that seemed to move like water. Her eyes held a quiet strength, deep and calm. She belonged to the Illithri, a race known for their strong minds and special psychic gifts, but here in this market her gifts were ignored. To the traders and buyers she was nothing more than property. Chains bound her wrists and ankles, cold metal against her skin. She kept her head high, refusing to show fear. Around her, others were loud, angry, or scared, but Kayla's spirit stayed strong. She did not belong here, and she knew she would find a way to leave. The market was a confusing maze. Bright lights flashed from alien machines. Strange smells mixed. Spices from distant planets, burnt metal, and something bitter like fear. Creatures of all shapes and sizes shouted in languages Kayla had never heard. Some had many arms. Some had eyes all over their faces, and some looked almost like humans but were not. A trader with a sharp face and cold eyes pushed a small crowd back to make room. He held a thin rod in his hand, tapping it to get attention. Step forward. Step forward and see the finest slave for sale. Illithri woman, strong mind, perfect for any task. His voice was loud, but it held no kindness. Kayla stood on a raised platform. She looked out at the crowd, not with fear, but with quiet defiance. Some buyers whispered to each other, judging her, trying to guess what she might be worth. Kayla's mind reached out quietly, feeling the thoughts around her, a mix of greed, curiosity, and hate. Among the crowd, a figure stood out. A man dressed simply, without the heavy weapons or flashy clothes the others wore. He watched Kayla, with interest but not like the others. His eyes were kind and thoughtful, not hungry or cruel. This man was Ethan, a human traveler who had seen many worlds. He had come to the market looking for something different, something valuable that money could not buy. Ethan noticed the subtle glow of Kayla's skin and the calm power in her eyes. He felt a strange pull, a sense that she was not just another item to be sold. As the trader called out her price, Ethan stepped closer. "Why do you look at her like that?" a buyer whispered to Ethan, noticing his attention. "She is not just a slave," Ethan replied softly. "There is something special about her. I want to know more." The trader laughed. "She is property. She has no rights, no future except what someone pays for." But Ethan was not like the others. He made his way through the crowd and spoke to the trader in low, serious tones. They argued for a while, and the price went higher and higher. The crowd watched, some with surprise, others with anger. No one had expected someone to care. Finally, Ethan handed over a small bag of credits. The trader grinned but did not look happy to lose his prize. "She is yours now," he said. Kayla felt the chains loosen as Ethan stepped forward and took her arm gently. "You don't have to be afraid," he said quietly. "I will not hurt you." For the first time in many days, Kayla felt a small spark of hope. She looked at Ethan and saw the truth in his eyes. She did not know what the future held, but she knew this man was different. Maybe, just maybe, her story was about to change. As the crowd began to disperse, Ethan guided Kayla away from the market. The noise faded behind them, replaced by the quiet hum of the city beyond. Kayla's mind was full of questions, but she also felt something new: freedom. Ethan spoke gently as they walked. "I don't believe in owning people. Everyone deserves respect and a chance to live free." Kayla nodded. "You are the first to say that to me." They moved into the busy streets, away from the shadows of the market. The city was still loud and strange, but it no longer felt like a prison. Kayla's heart beat a little faster. She was no longer just a slave. She was a person, and that was a powerful thing. After leaving the Market of Shadows behind, Ethan and Kyla stepped into a different world, a city full of light, noise, and busy streets. This city was known as Valora, a trading hub where many species lived and worked together. It was a place of hope for some, and a new beginning for others. Ethan walked beside Kayla, careful to match her pace. She was still quiet, her eyes watching, everything around her. She was learning to trust this human who had bought her freedom. But trust was not easy after all she had been through. Ethan was not like the traders or the buyers who had looked at Kayla as nothing more than property. He was a merchant, yes, but also an explorer. He traveled to many planets, learning about different cultures and meeting new people. He believed that every being had value and deserved respect. As they walked through the crowded streets, Ethan began to ask Kayla questions, not about the market or her capture, but about her world and her people. He wanted to understand her, not just own her. "Where do you come from?" Ethan asked gently. Kayla thought for a moment. "The Elithri live on a planet called Elithra. It is a place of forests and rivers, with skies that change colors. We have lived there for many thousands of years." Ethan smiled. "It sounds beautiful. I want to see it someday." Kyla looked at him surprised. Few humans cared about such things. It is. But now it feels very far away. They walked past tall buildings made of shining metal and glass. Aliens from many worlds moved around them, some with bright feathers, others with smooth, shining skin. The sounds of different languages filled the air. Ethan took Kayla to his small home at the edge of the city. It was simple but clean. Inside, the walls were decorated with pictures and objects from his travels, strange plants, tools, and small statues from distant planets. Kayla looked around with interest. "You have traveled far." "I have," Ethan said, "and I still have much to learn. But I believe the greatest lesson is to see the worth in others." Kayla nodded slowly. "Most people only saw me as a slave. They never tried to understand me." Ethan sat down and gestured for Kayla to join him. "Tell me about your people. What makes the Elithri special?" Kayla took a deep breath. "We have a gift. Our minds can touch the thoughts of others. We can sense feelings and sometimes share memories. It is a connection that helps us live in harmony." "That is amazing," Ethan said. "Do you still have your powers?" Kayla closed her eyes for a moment. She reached out with her mind, feeling the room around her. It was faint, but she could sense Ethan's calm thoughts. "Yes, but they have been weak since I was captured." Ethan looked thoughtful. "Maybe being free again will help you regain your strength." For the first time, Kayla felt a small hope grow inside her. She was not just a prisoner or a slave. She was a being with a past, a future, and gifts that mattered. Over the next few days, Ethan and Kayla spent time together. He showed her how to use the simple technology of his home. She shared stories of her world and her people. They laughed over small mistakes and learned to trust one another more each day. One afternoon, as the sun set behind the city's tall towers, Kayla used her powers to share a memory with Ethan. It was a vision of Elithra, the forests glowing with blue light, the rivers sparkling under two moons, and the Elithri dancing in celebration. Ethan watched in awe. "It is beautiful. Thank you for sharing this with me." Kayla smiled softly. "I wanted you to understand why I fight to be free." Their bond grew stronger with each passing moment. Ethan admired Kayla's courage and wisdom, and Kayla saw in Ethan a kindness she had never known. But outside the safety of Ethan's home, danger still lurked. The slave traders had lost a valuable prize, and they would not give up easily. Kayla's freedom was not yet safe. One evening, Ethan noticed a shadow watching their home from across the street. He moved quietly to the window and saw a figure disappear into the darkness. "We are not safe yet," Ethan said to Kayla. "They will try to find you and bring you back." Kayla's face hardened with determination. "Then we must be ready. I will not be a slave again." Ethan nodded. "We will face this together." That night, as the city lights flickered and the stars shone above, two unlikely friends prepared for the challenges ahead. One was a human, full of hope and courage. The other was an alien, strong and proud, ready to reclaim her life. Together, they were a new kind of team, one that could change the future. The night was quiet outside Ethan's home, but inside, tension grew. Ethan sat by the window watching the empty street. He knew the traders would not forget Kayla so easily. They saw her as a valuable prize, and they wanted her back. Kayla sat nearby, her eyes steady and calm. She was no longer the scared woman from the market. Her spirit had grown stronger and her powers were slowly returning. Still, she knew the danger was real. "We need a plan," Ethan said. "They will send bounty hunters. We can't just wait." Kayla nodded. "We have to be ready, but I also want to understand what kind of people they are. If we know their plans, we can stay ahead." Ethan agreed. Together, they prepared for what might come next. The next morning, Ethan left to gather supplies and information. Kayla stayed, behind, practicing her powers. She reached out with her mind, trying to sense if anyone was watching. The connection was weak but growing stronger each day. When Ethan returned, he brought news. "There are 3 bounty hunters near the city. They are skilled and dangerous." Kayla's eyes narrowed. "Then we must be careful." They decided to move. Ethan packed a small bag with essentials, and Kayla prepared herself. They could not stay in one place. As they left the city, the sun rose behind them, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. The open road stretched ahead, a path toward freedom but also danger. The bounty hunters were not far behind. They moved quickly, following every clue. They knew Kayla's value and were determined to capture her. Ethan and Kayla traveled through forests and hills, places where the city's noise was replaced by birdsong and the rustling of leaves. It was peaceful but also lonely. They had to stay alert. One evening, as they made camp near a small river, Kayla used her powers to create a small shield around their fire. It was faint but strong enough to hide them from prying eyes. Ethan watched, her with respect. "Your abilities are incredible. You're more powerful than I thought." Kayla smiled softly. "Thank you. I am learning to trust them again." Suddenly, in the dark woods beyond the firelight, a sound broke the silence, a soft snap of a branch. Ethan stood quickly, reaching for his weapon. Kayla closed her eyes and focused her mind. 3 figures stepped into the firelight. The bounty hunters. Their leader was tall, with a scar across his cheek and cold eyes. "There you are," he said. "The Elithri woman belongs to us." Ethan stepped forward, placing himself between Kayla and the hunters. "She is free. You will not take her," the leader laughed. "We'll see about that." The fight began. Ethan was quick and smart. He used his surroundings, ducking behind trees and dodging attacks. Kayla's powers surged. She reached out with her mind, sending waves of energy that confused and pushed the hunters back. Together they fought with a strange rhythm. Ethan's strength and skill blending with Kayla's psychic gifts. One hunter charged at Kayla, but she raised her hand, and a burst of energy stopped him in his tracks. He stumbled, then fell to the ground, unconscious. Ethan took down another with a swift move, disarming him and tying him up with a rope. The leader was left standing, anger burning in his eyes. He lunged at Ethan, but Kayla was ready. With a focused thought, she sent a pulse that knocked the leader to the ground. The battle was over. Breathing heavily, Ethan and Kayla looked at each other. They had faced danger and won. But they both knew this was only the beginning. "We can't stay here," Ethan said. "They will come back with more people." Kayla nodded. "We must find a safe place. A home where no one will hunt me." Ethan agreed. "I know a place. Far from here. Where people live free and respect each other. It will take time to get there, but it is worth it." As the sun set, painting the sky in colors of hope, Ethan and Kayla packed their things once more. They left the river behind, stepping into the unknown. Their journey was not just about escape. It was about finding a new life, one built on trust, respect, and freedom. And together, they were ready to face whatever came next. The road ahead was long and uncertain, but Ethan and Kayla traveled together with a new sense of purpose. Each step away from the danger of the slave traders brought them closer to a future they both hoped for, one of freedom and respect. As they walked through rolling hills and dense forests, their conversations grew deeper. They shared stories about their lives, their dreams, and their fears. For the first time, Kayla felt she could be herself without hiding behind walls of silence. One afternoon, as they rested by a clear stream, Ethan asked, "Tell me more about your people, Kayla. What is it like to live as an Illithri?" Kayla smiled softly and looked at the sparkling water. The Illithri live in a world where nature and mind are connected. We value peace, knowledge, and harmony. From a young age, we learn to listen, not just with ears, but with our minds. Our psychic gifts help us understand each other without words. Ethan listened carefully. "That sounds beautiful. It must be hard to live away from your home." Kayla's eyes grew distant. "It is. When I was captured, I lost more than my freedom. I lost my connection to my people and to myself. But being with you helps me remember." Ethan nodded. "I feel the same way sometimes. Traveling alone, seeing new worlds. It can be lonely. But meeting you has changed everything." They smiled at each other, the silence between them comfortable and warm. As they continued their journey, Kayla began to practice her psychic abilities more often. She closed her eyes and reached out, feeling the thoughts and emotions of the world around her. Trees whispered ancient secrets, animals watched curiously, and Ethan's steady presence calmed her. One evening, under a sky filled with stars, Kayla shared a memory with Ethan. She reached into her mind and showed him a vision of her home planet, Illithra. In the vision, great forests glowed with soft light, rivers shimmered under two moons, and Illithri danced in peaceful celebration. Ethan watched in awe. "It's like a dream. I've never seen anything so beautiful." Kayla smiled, feeling a deep connection grow between them. "I want to take you there one day." Their bond was not just about survival anymore. It was about trust, respect, and understanding across worlds. But the challenges they faced were real. The slave traders and bounty hunters were still searching for Kayla. They sent messages across planets offering rewards for her capture. One night, as they camped in a quiet valley, Ethan noticed movement in the shadows. He woke Kayla and whispered, "We're not alone." Kayla focused her mind and sensed the presence of others, several figures moving silently through the trees. Ethan quickly packed their things. "We have to move now." They left the valley under the cover of darkness, moving swiftly through the forest. Kayla's psychic senses guided them away from danger, and Ethan's knowledge of survival helped them avoid traps. After hours of walking, they reached a small settlement, a peaceful village where different species lived together in harmony. The people welcomed them kindly, offering food and shelter. Ethan and Kayla rested, feeling safe for the first time in weeks. But even in this safe place, Kayla knew she had to keep her powers hidden. Not everyone understood the Illithri gifts, and some still feared what they did not know. Over the next days, Ethan and Kayla worked together to plan their future. Ethan wanted to help Kayla return to her home, but he also knew they needed to build a life where they were free from fear. One afternoon, as they sat by a fire, Ethan said, "I believe we can change the way people see each other. Your story, our story, can show others that no one should be owned or sold." Kayla looked at him with hope. "I want to believe that too. Maybe together, we can make a difference." Their journey was no longer just about escape. It was about creating a new path, one where different species could live in peace and respect. As the stars shone above, Ethan and Kayla made a silent promise to face the future together. They were no longer just a human and an alien on the run. They were partners, united by trust and a shared dream. And in that dream, anything was possible. Ethan and Kayla had found a quiet village that welcomed them, but peace was only temporary. The shadow of the slave traders still loomed, dark and dangerous. The bounty hunters were relentless, and their search for Kayla grew closer each day. One morning, Ethan woke to a strange feeling, a chill in the air, and a silence that was too deep. He looked outside the small hut where they stayed and saw a group of strangers moving near the village edge. Their clothing was dark, their faces hidden under hoods. Ethan's heart tightened. "Kayla," he whispered. "The hunters are here." Kayla rose quickly, her eyes sharp and focused. "We must warn the village." Together they ran through the streets telling the villagers to prepare. The people trusted Ethan and Kayla, and soon the village was ready. Some helped by setting simple traps, others stood guard with whatever tools they had. The bounty hunters moved carefully, but the village was not easy to enter. Still, Ethan knew it was only a matter of time. As the sun began to set, the first hunters appeared at the village borders. They moved silently through the trees, their eyes searching. Kayla closed her eyes, reaching out with her mind. She sent waves of warning to the villagers, urging them to stay hidden. The hunters were skilled, but Kayla's psychic powers gave them an edge. With a focused thought, she created illusions, images of creatures and sounds that confused the hunters. They hesitated, unsure of what was real. Ethan took advantage of the confusion. He led a small group to surround the hunters, using traps and quick moves to disarm them. The villagers fought bravely, their courage surprising even Ethan. But the leader of the hunters was not so easily fooled. He moved closer to Ethan and Kayla, his eyes burning with determination. "You cannot hide her forever," he growled. Kayla met his gaze without fear. "I am not property. I will never be yours." The hunter lunged forward, but Ethan stepped in front, blocking him. The two men struggled, their fight fierce but careful. Kayla used her powers to create a barrier, protecting Ethan from harm. In the end, the hunter was forced to retreat, wounded but alive. His comrades followed, disappearing into the forest. The village was safe for now, but the threat remained. That night, Ethan and Kayla sat by the fire, their faces tired but determined. "They will come back," Ethan said quietly. Kayla nodded. "We must be stronger. We cannot run forever." Ethan reached out and took her hand. "We will face them together. Your strength and my courage, no one can break us." Kayla smiled, feeling a warmth she had not known before. She was no longer alone. In the days that followed, Ethan and Kayla trained with the villagers. They shared their skills, preparing everyone for the battles ahead. Kayla's powers grew stronger as she practiced, and Ethan's plans became sharper. Their bond deepened not just through words, but through the shared fight for freedom. One morning, Kayla woke with a new sense of purpose. She looked at Ethan and said, "I want to return to Elithra, not as a slave, but as a free woman." Ethan smiled. "Then we will make that journey together." The road ahead was still dangerous, but they were ready. Their friendship had become a partnership, built on trust and hope. And no matter what came next, they knew they would face it side by side. The night sky was clear and full of stars as Ethan and Kayla sat beside the quiet fire outside the village. The events of recent days weighed heavily on their minds, but between them was a calm strength, a promise of something new. Kayla looked at Ethan with deep thought in her eyes. "I want to go home," she said softly. "I want to return to Elithra, to the forests and rivers I remember. But I do not want to go back as a slave." Ethan reached out, taking her hand gently. "You won't have to. We will go together, and you will go as a free woman, strong, proud, and safe." Kayla smiled, but a shadow crossed her face. "There is something else. I do not want to be alone." Ethan's gaze held hers. "You won't be. I will be with you." For the first time, Ethan spoke the words he had held inside for a while. "Kayla, I want to be more than your friend. I want to be your partner. Will you marry me?" Kayla's eyes widened in surprise. The idea was new and strange to her. On Elithra, bonds between people were sacred and rare, built on deep trust and understanding. She had never experienced to find such a connection with a human, someone so different from her own kind. She looked at Ethan carefully, feeling the honesty and warmth in his eyes. After a moment, she nodded. Yes, I will marry you. The promise between them was quiet but powerful. It was not about ownership or control, it was about respect, equality, and love. The days that followed were filled with preparations. The village helped them with what they could: simple celebrations, small gifts, and kind words. For Ethan and Kayla, the marriage was a symbol of hope. It was proof that two very different beings could find trust and build a future together. But even as they celebrated, the danger was never far away. The slave traders had not given up. Messages warned that more hunters were coming, stronger and more determined than before. Ethan and Kayla knew they had to leave the village soon. Their journey back to Elithra would be long and difficult, but it was the only way to find true freedom. On the morning of their departure, the village gathered to say goodbye. Children smiled and waved, and elders gave blessings. Ethan and Kayla felt a deep gratitude for the kindness they had found. As they walked away from the village hand in hand, Kayla whispered, "I am ready." Ethan squeezed her hand gently. We face the future together. Their bond was more than a promise, it was a shield against the darkness. Together, they would face whatever dangers awaited and find a new life. The path to Elithra was unknown, but their hearts were certain. They would return not as slave and owner, but as equals and partners, united by choice and respect. And with every step forward, they carried the hope of many, that freedom and kindness could cross even the widest stars. The stars above stretched endlessly as Ethan and Kayla traveled toward Elithra, the home Kayla had longed to see again. Each step was heavy with hope and courage. Their journey was not just about reaching a place, it was about building a new future together. The dangers they had faced behind them made their bond stronger. Where once Kayla was a prisoner and Ethan a stranger, now they were partners bound by trust, respect, and love. As they approached the outer atmosphere of Elithra, Kayla's heart raced. The sight of her home planet with its vast forests and glowing rivers filled her with a deep peace she hadn't felt in years. Ethan stood beside her, sharing in the wonder. Landing in a small clearing near a river, they stepped out onto the soft earth. The air was fresh and sweet, carrying the familiar scent of blossoms and rain. Elithra was alive, just as Kayla remembered. News of their return traveled fast. The Elithri people who had heard whispers of Kayla's capture and escape gathered to welcome her home. They saw not a slave, but a brave woman who had fought for her freedom and stood proud. Ethan was welcome too, not just as Kayla's partner, but as a friend to their people. The Elithri recognized the kindness in him and the courage it took to stand against the cruel traders. In the days that followed, Kayla shared her story with her people, the pain of capture, the kindness of a human who saw her worth, and the strength they found together. Her tale became a symbol of hope and change. Leaders from nearby planets heard of their journey and began to question the dark trade that had caused so much suffering. Slowly, the idea of respect and equality between species grew stronger. Ethan and Kayla worked to build bridges between worlds. They traveled to cities and settlements, speaking out against slavery and injustice. Their story inspired many to stand for freedom and kindness. Kayla's psychic powers, once weakened by fear and pain, blossomed fully. With Ethan's support, she helped heal wounds, not just of body, but of spirit. Together they showed that true strength comes from unity. Their marriage was celebrated across Elithra, a joyful event where different species came together. It was more than a ceremony. It was a promise to protect freedom and honor the value of every being. One evening, standing beneath the twin moons of Elithra, Kayla looked at Ethan and said, "We have come far, but there is still much to do." Ethan smiled and took her hand. "We will face it all together." Their future was bright, filled with challenges but also with hope. They had turned a story of pain into one of triumph. They had shown that worth is not measured by chains or capture, but by courage, kindness, and love. And so, under the endless stars, two souls from different worlds began a new dawn, a future where all beings could live free, respected, and united.